Hello, everybody. Good day. Welcome to the Toon Under podcast. I'm here. I'm Jack in Brisbane. I'm here with the other Magpies co-coach, Mr. Keegan Carr. How are you?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
I'm very good. And we've also got the best Greek to ever be associated with Newcastle United, apart from Nikos Dabazas. Dimi, fresh back from his holiday. Dimi, how are you?
Good, mate. It was just saying before, not much of a holiday anymore with a 15th-month-old. So, back to normal reality. But the reality at a holiday is the same thing. It's not much of a break. But good to be back with you boys and talking the Toon.
Yeah, there's no debate, is there, about the best Greek associated with Newcastle? It's obviously Nikos. It's definitely not Vlak, who's currently kicking his heels. That's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Georgiadis, we had him as well. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, nah, he's not good enough.
And I still do hold you personally responsible for this goalkeeper, who we just
mate.
We're going to be stuck with him for the next 10 years.
We're not here to talk about Odysseus, but if you blokes actually watched him play, he's actually a very good keeper, and it's sad that he's not going to get a chance. But he's actually a very decent keeper. So hopefully he comes to my team in Greece because we need some help in the goals.
He's just a PSR pawn, isn't he? He's just been used in this horrible way in modern football.
He's getting paid well, though. I'm not sure he cares at the moment, but he's getting paid quite well.
He is getting paid well. That's why he's so happy in all the photos. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk tonight about the transfer window. There's obviously been a lot of stuff going on. We're going to talk about the summer in general. Now we're pretty much halfway through the transfer window period. We'll talk about the Isak. I think we can call it a saga now. It's probably reached saga territory, although thankfully it's calmed down a little bit in the last few days, but it certainly felt like a saga towards the back end of last week. Not a very nice one for us. And then we'll talk about the news that we've put in a bid for Yoane Wissa from Brentford. So something seems to be happening there. But let's get into it. There's been a lot kind of going around. We haven't really done a podcast since about 2 weeks ago, I think. So we've
Alanga, I think,
yeah, probably since we confirmed Alanga. So we'll try and sort of condense everything that's happened into 45 minutes or so to avoid boring everybody to tears, because things move so quickly as well. Things change so quick, so it's hard to keep up with everything. But where we are right now, there's about 5.5 weeks of the transfer window left. There's about 3.5 weeks until the league starts. So we've got in Anthony Alanga, signed from Forest. That's a good signing, and that was a good time for that to happen. I think that calmed everybody down for at least a few days. Out, we've had Sean Longstaff and Callum Wilson, who have both left. So I think it's fair to say, and I think Eddie is partly not to blame, but he was responsible for those quotes straight after the Everton game, when he was probably a little bit emotional still about that, the defeat, a bad performance, but then getting Champions League. It was a bit of a strange day. But he started talking about how we needed to be quick out the blocks, and it was really important. It was going to be a transformative summer, all of that sort of stuff. So we really had high hopes coming into the window. So it hasn't really happened like that yet, although this is caveated with the fact there's still 5.5 weeks left, and there's a lot of factors beyond our control. But Dimi, I'll come to you first. What have you made of the summer of the transfer window so far?
In one word, frustration, to be honest. But look, I thought coming into this summer, it was going to be very hard for us because we've now, I think, graduated into a different tier of the Premier League, and the players that obviously we're targeting, we're not the only ones targeting. The other top clubs are targeting them. But the problem we got at the moment is we seem to be very rigid, and you wrote a great piece on NUFC blog, Jack, but we seem, which sort of covers this, but we seem to be a little bit too rigid, looking for that perfect signing. And I mean, most of our signings have been hits, which is very rare. You don't usually get the strike rate and the success rate that we've had. So I think that's the rigidity that we've had in this window so far has probably haunted us or hindered us from getting more players in. But like you said, there's still time to make it work. But definitely there's there's murmurings and there's stuff that's happening behind the scenes that obviously we're not aware of, but you'd have to think the players and the staff are getting frustrated because they know we've got a big season coming up. We've got 4 competitions to play for. We don't want to disgrace ourselves in the Champions League. There's an extra 2 games in the Champions League and a better chance to progress given the new format. So we need players, and we need players quite quickly to get accustomed to the way Eddie wants to play. So, yeah, frustration, and hopefully it doesn't continue too much longer.
That's a word Eddie has used, frustration. And I think what happens with this club as well is that the fans take their lead from Eddie, and I certainly do. So if he's excited, I'm excited. If he's frustrated, I feel frustrated. I'm very in tune with what he says. And I know that he sometimes says things, he maybe doesn't say exactly what he thinks because he can't. There's no point in divulging everything. But I do think he tries to be as honest as he can be. And you've mentioned there, Dimi, we missed out on, I'll list them. We missed out on Delap and Pedro, who both went to Chelsea, and Burmo's gone to Man United. Ekitike, and this was the one that really kicked it all off last week. He's gone to Liverpool. We were interested in Dean Huyson, who signed for Real Madrid. We might be missing out on Trafford if Man City come for him, and possibly Gay might be going to Liverpool as well.
Fingers crossed on Trafford.
You look at those clubs, and it's they're all clubs who've got vastly more resources than us. Even if the team's not necessarily better, certainly in Man United's case, and we weren't. Us and Chelsea were pretty equal last season as well. So, Keegs, do you think the strategy of aiming high is a good strategy, or do you think that was a good way to start the window, or do you think it would have been better if we'd have gone in with a bit more of maybe a realistic view about signing attainable players before we did this? What's your kind of thoughts on the whole thing right now?
No, I think that's the right way to go. If you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle, and you can't help but think, and it's probably the reality of it all, is that we make inquiries and bids and all that sort of stuff, which the selling club alerts a club with more financial muscle than us. Hey, I know you've been interested too. Newcastle, they've actually made a bid. We'll probably sell to them if you're not interested. Well, that kicks them into gear, and we're in a race we can't win. There's no way we can match anything what these clubs are doing. So we have to keep trying though. Now, having said that, we probably needed to be a bit more flexible, not just with the type of player that we're after, but the strategy as well. So I think most sort of normal fans would agree that our best team is just about as good as any of them in the Premier League. And there's only probably a couple of positions that really need urgent upgrading, and that being the right winger, which we've done, and probably the right centre back is the other 2 pressing things that really need upgrading straight away. They've addressed the right winger situation, which is great. The right centre back, that's not been done yet, but that's not, like you said, through a lack of trying. But they've kind of tried to buy big, which is fine, but now it's going to go 2 ways, I feel. It's going to go, well, maybe if we let all these big clubs do their work, we might be able to get a couple of these players still at the end of the window because everyone else has done their business and we can kind of do that. Or do we go for people who will push and fatten the squad up a little bit? So our starting 11 doesn't actually change too much. It's just we've got a lot more strength in depth and stuff like that. So that's probably the decision they're probably making now, is which way do we pivot to, because we probably can't rely on this for the rest of the window. And the longer it gets, or the closer it gets to the end of the window, the prices for these kind of squad players is probably going to go up and get a bit more unrealistic as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Mainly, 5.5 weeks left, but we need probably, I would say, at least 4 players. We all know what happened in the last Champions League campaign, which the squad just wasn't prepared for. We had a tough run in that season anyway, because we had such hard fixtures in the league and in all the cups, including the Champions League. So I think, but the squad really wasn't prepared for that. And you look back at the summer transfer window of 2023 when we signed Tonali, Barnes, Tino, and Hall. And that looks really good now. That looks like a really good summer, but it didn't look like that after 6 months or even after 12 months. Like there was a very good argument that we should have used that summer to buy more Champions League ready first team players, but we're probably seeing now that that's not easy to do. If you're trying to buy champion players good enough for the Champions League, other Champions League clubs who've got more money are also trying to buy them. And they can pay them more as well. So, and the whole wage structure of our club is another factor here, because I had a little look at one of those websites earlier that says what the players what the salaries are, and I think it might be a little bit off, but it has Bruno on 160,000 a week, and it has Isak on 120, Gordon and Joelinton I think 150, Trippier 120. So anyway, Bruno's the best paid player, but we'll talk about Isak a bit later. But if he want to bump him up to what he's actually worth, the other players will start wanting that as well, including Champions League players that we bring in. So it's very difficult, isn't it? And it's easy to sit there on social media and get frustrated, because you do look at it on the face of it and think, look, we're in the Champions League. We should be a good draw for players. We should be attractive, but we're finding that we're not as attractive as some other clubs still. We are in our heads because we're Newcastle supporters and we know how special this club is. But, Liam Delap would rather choose Chelsea, because he's getting paid more. But it's just not how players see our club at the moment. Maybe for a few more years till we'll get a bit more money. But that's all contributed, hasn't it, to what Dimi said has been frustrating. And I think we've got 5.5 weeks now. And I think if we do pick up a signing in the next few days, which looks hopeful, which we'll talk about in a bit, that might calm everyone down for maybe 2 or 3 days, and then we can start panicking about something else instead. But transfer windows are difficult, aren't they, Dimi? Like, you're not in control of a lot of these factors. Like what Keeg said, clubs can leak to Fabrizio Romano or David Ornstein or whoever they want, that we've bid this amount of money, because you can guarantee those leaks aren't coming from Newcastle, because we don't benefit from it. The selling club benefits from it. But it's really difficult, isn't it, Dimi? And we seem to be struggling with the mechanics and of the whole thing at the moment. And that's kind of contributed to this as well.
I don't think Newcastle and transfer window has ever been easy, to be honest, in my lifetime. I mean, we used to be at the point where we would worry until the last second if we were going to sell our best players, or if we were going to sign Chef Kikuchi, or that other bloke from what was the other guy we couldn't sign that Bruce wanted that we couldn't sign, that midfielder.
Chowdhury.
Chowdhury. And that used to be our transfer window, or used to be the old Tranquillo by Neto's hung up at the hotel and we're waiting for that to sign, and that never happened. So we Newcastle, for me, have always had these sort of ridiculous transfer windows. But to be honest, like I said before, we're now punching well and truly, not above our weight, but we're now punching a different weight class, and we are not prepared, and we probably can't financially match the deals that these clubs can, and they can just throw money around willy-nilly. Chelsea can sign 80 players to their squad. They don't give a shit, but we can't do that. So we need to be calculated. But I think you just touched on it before there, Jack. You said that we're probably not at the level as a club professionally, back of house, to deal with this sort of market and to deal with these sort of problems, because we've just had a second sporting director walk out after 12 months. So basically Eddie Howe is doing the majority of the recruiting, plus his nephew, plus Steve Nixon. But besides those three, there's not really probably anyone else doing the heavy lifting and negotiating. And I'm sure all these big clubs have got teams of 10, 20, 30 people that are doing this negotiation. They've probably got hundreds of scouts around the world who are offering these players, but we just don't have the resources, and we haven't invested in the resources to get on a level playing field. So we probably are being too ambitious for where we are at the moment, and we probably have to be a little bit more realistic about the players that we can attract. And like you said, like Keith said before, our team is very good at the moment. Our starting 11, probably 12, 13, 14 players are top notch. We just need to, yes, we need to improve probably right side and centre half, but we just need to improve the edges and the depth of this squad. And we're not too far away from pushing towards higher than we were last year from 5th. So yeah, it's a tough one to swallow as a fan watching the socials and watching all the rubbish that goes on. But I'm sure that one day we'll get there. That will be that stupid club who just spends stupid money because we can. But at the moment, we can't do that.
Yeah, and Eddie Howe's role is interesting in all this, isn't it? Because he is the most powerful person at the club now because he's overachieved for 3 years, basically. He's really specific because it's on his head if things don't work well. And, you've pointed out to me that we can't afford to make transfer mistakes as well. So that's why we go into such depths in terms of scouting and due diligence, and Eddie knows what he wants for his team and what's going to fit into his system, his tactics. They have to be the right character. There's a lot of boxes that the players have to tick, which is why we are aiming high and why other clubs want these players as well. So there's been some kind of suggestion that Eddie is going to have to be a little bit more flexible in his approach to it as well, because like you said, he is doing it now. So it's kind of on him as well as training the players and getting them ready for a season. And one of the things I think about this is that he has turned Jacob Murphy and others into Champions League players. So those players wouldn't be on the list if they weren't already at the club. So he's an elite coach who's proven that he can improve players and turn them into great players. So his role's really interesting in this. And I think he needs to be listened to and given what he wants as much as possible. But Keeg, how much of this and Summer's problems do you think is down to the executive upheaval? It's the second summer in a row that Paul Mitchell has been involved in this sort of not discontent, but it can't be good for this to be going on behind the scenes when, like Dimi says, these other clubs have got people working on multiple deals at the same time. What do you think? How much do you think it's down to the off-pitch problems that has kind of fed into the frustrations of this transfer window so far?
It's definitely played a part. There's no doubt about that. But you can't sort of blame them when these players go to other clubs with more money, higher transfer fees and higher wages. Like, that's got nothing to do with the executive structure at all. And you see people that talk about, oh, we should have bid more or whatever. It wouldn't have mattered what bid we put in first. The selling club would have went to the exact same club and said they've bid this much, and the other club would have bid more. Like, that stuff wouldn't have changed at all. What probably would have been better is, like you said, the ability to sort of work on multiple things at once, because there's more of a structure in place. Now, last summer, I think that Mitchell sort of took a step back because things had already been in motion and stuff like that. If you read, like, if you believe what's been said, that he was the one driving the Gahey thing from the start, and not pulling that off or getting it done probably damaged his reputation maybe internally a little bit. Like, he's come in chest out and stuff like that, and kind of like that gif with Homer in the bushes kind of just going straight back in again because they weren't going to sell him and he had to put his tail between his legs and come back and didn't get it done. Now, how much he was going to be involved in this transfer window, we don't know. We know January was never going to happen because of the finances and things like that. So, yeah, you don't know the level of what they were involved in and how much they were doing, but it's definitely harder to do with three people rather than a team or a network that can work on multiple things at once.
Yeah. With these things, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes there. So there's always a lot of conjecture and speculation. But like I said before, you can only really go off what Eddie Howe says. Like, and he's got the club's best interests at heart. He's not one of these managers who's got a massive ego, who's going to really use the media to send messages. I think he answers questions as honestly as he can. And if he's frustrated, that's gonna show. But we've still got 5.5 weeks left to turn it around and to make this into a successful summer. And even though it's been very challenging. So, Dimi, what do you think has to happen in the next 35, 40 days for this to be regarded, to turn it around, and for this to be forgotten this period of the summer, and for us to think, actually, that's been a good transfer window? What has to happen in that period of time? And do you think it will happen?
Sign players. We have to sign some players, to put it simply. But no, look, to be honest, if we can get, I think if we can get 3 first team quality players and maybe a 4th developmental player who may be on the fringes who could play at a pinch, I think that would be good enough. And you mentioned that Champions League season a couple of years ago. I mean, we may have had a squad capable to compete if we didn't have 10 injuries all at once and didn't have half our squad wiped out. It was just bad luck for us that all the injuries came at once and we just couldn't rotate, and then we were screwed. But I think 3 to 4 players between now and the end of the window is imperative. But I think we need to get one in pretty soon, because the masses are obviously, I mean, you don't want to listen to the masses. You don't want to listen to what's going on out there. But people are getting very frustrated. And if people are getting frustrated, I mean, the new generation of players, they're going to be on social media. They're going to see all the talk. They're going to get frustrated as well, saying, what's going on? Are we going to sign anyone? What's sort of happening? So I'd like to think that we're going to get a player in soon, very soon. And maybe that'll get everything going again. We can start building out this squad. And we're not exactly looking for the jewels. And obviously, yeah, we aim high. We try to get the best players we can, but we don't need to have a massive overhaul of this squad like we did 2.5, 3 years ago. It just needs to top it up essentially, and hopefully we've definitely got the time to do it. Hopefully we've got the means and the ability to do it.
Transfers give everyone a boost, don't they? So it's about the narrative and about the feeling around the club. And I don't know, Keeks, do you get this? You do recruitment for your AFL club, you know? Like, do you get the same like dopamine rush buzz when it comes to recruiting players? Like, is it happens like this, like where you sign a player and you want the content, and like it comes out and you feel good, don't you? Like everyone after we signed Langer, we felt good for 5 days, and then it wears off. But is it like the same thing, like recruitment new players? Yeah, like dopamine.
Yeah, absolutely. And
blast.
And we've been really fortunate at the club I'm at that we've had a pretty good hit rate with the players that we've targeted, and we're handcuffed as well with what we can do in terms of recruiting. We just can't go and recruit any player that we like. We're bound by a salary cap as well, and there's a point system in place where we can't play over a certain amount of points, and each player has a point value attached. So we had to be really strategic with who we targeted, because we couldn't just go and sign anyone because they couldn't all play. But yeah, you kind of, when you meet with a player, and I know it's a lot different at the elite level, but when you get in front of the player and you meet the player and you have a chat and you outline sort of your plans as the club and how they fit into it and all that sort of stuff, which no doubt the same kind of conversations happen, just at a lot more higher level than what we operate at. But you get a pretty good vibe when you walk out. Like you kind of go, yeah, I reckon that went pretty well. Like we're half a chance here. And then we've been really lucky that the players that we've targeted have been pretty keen to agree straight away. So they haven't gone away to think about it or play us against another team and things like that. So when you kind of watch them go in, and we may be a little bit different to other clubs where we don't know what anyone gets paid, and that's the way we wanted it. We don't want that to influence our decision making when it comes to selection or how we judge a player. We just want to watch them and what they do at training and on the field during a game, and then make our judgments on that and keep the money side out of it. So we talk to the player, we sell the club, and then we hand it over to the president and the football manager to sort finances. And you can tell when the president walks out with a big smile on his face that they've signed, and then yeah, you do, like you get a huge buzz out of it, going like awesome, like we've sold our club really, really well that this person wants to come and play with us. So it'd be exactly the same as what it would happen at elite level. Like you've seen on the Amazon doco when Amanda was trying to sign Anthony Gordon, like that's pretty much the same stuff. It's the same thing. Like when you get that confirmation and they're in, yeah, it's a huge feeling. And then I think Alanga as well, given he knew so many players at the club already, like, and he seems like an energetic person, that would have gave all the players a huge sugar hit too. Like, hey, we've finally got someone new in here. Like, we've been going away on all these camps. We've had no one get up on chairs and sing songs because no one new's come here for the last bloody 18 months. So it is. So hopefully I know that preseason game on the weekend probably didn't go how we thought it was going to be. And maybe that was a bit of a downer. Like, there might have been other reasons why the result was like that. And something like this can just, pick everyone up again and put smiles on faces. And then, all right. And it's more of a I don't know what the word is, but confirmation that, hey, we are trying to make you better. Like, we share your vision and we want to be as good as you guys are training. So it gives the players validation that the club is trying to help them as well.
Mm. One of the things that I loved about Eddie when he joined was he wasn't talking about transfer window. He was talking about coaching the players that are there at the time. Some managers are just like checkbook managers and they just get whoever they want to sign, basically, So I really loved that about Eddie and appreciated that he's a coach first. But like, it's okay to crave transfers, I think, especially during this time of the season as well, when we know what happened 2 years ago and we just want the club to keep progressing. And I think it's okay to crave transfers, and it gets played out on social media with the desperation, and like, this is the time of year where, like, I'm kind of like, I try not to check my phone in the middle of the night, but sometimes I have been, because just to see what was going on, like, especially last week. I know, and then you're awake for the rest of the night, but it's nice to wake up for us sometimes and see that there's been some activity, something going on. So we miss it all, like, because it's the middle of the night for us. So, but yeah, the point I was making is, like, it's part of football fandom, I think, like wanting new players and excitement, and you do get that real dopamine hit. So and we've been deprived of that for 3 transfer windows for 2 years, pretty much. So we want a bit more of it now, and we know that we're in a position financially to be able to do that as well. So let's see what happens. But let's touch on the we'll touch on the Isak. Like I said before, it's officially a saga, although it seems to have thankfully calmed down a little bit. This all started about this time last week when news broke that we had bid for Hugo Ekitike for the 3rd time in his career, 3rd time in the last few years. There was all sorts of discussion about how it was a power play, because then Liverpool came in the next day and said they were interested in Isak. Like, we haven't really been involved in this level of transfer saga before, really, because we haven't had any players that are good enough, to want to be linked with the Premier League champions, or, like, we've had the best striker in the world before, Alan Shearer, but he wasn't going to be going anywhere unless Ruud Gullit managed to kick him out. So,
which was close.
Which was close, yeah. If we'd have won that derby game, that probably history would have been very different. But yeah, we haven't had an Alexander Isak before, so we haven't been subject of this kind of interest, and people's my mentions on Twitter a mess after I did a tweet about the valuation of Isak compared to Luis Diaz. The Liverpool fans found it, but it's a new experience for us to be involved in this type of thing. So,
who was the last player we had that got linked to a big club away from us? Was it
Andy Carroll?
Demba Ba?
That was, yeah, but
was he out of contract?
We always knew he was going to go. He had a release. He had a low release clause, and he was always quite well.
Luke Remy,
Johan Cabaye went to PSG.
Cabaye was the next one, yeah.
But Dimi said Andy Carroll. It was Andy Carroll, but that was like really out of nowhere. Really, like that was a horrible experience, and that was only because Chelsea signed Fernando Torres as well. So it hasn't happened.
Always Chelsea.
It hasn't happened a lot for us. And we've got this world-class striker now. So the club have been absolute dead set that he's not for sale. And he has never given any indication that he is in any way unsettled. He's got 3 years left on his contract. He's always very cool and calm and collected. And he's just said he said before that he lets his agent deal with stuff and he just gets on with playing football. He seems very relaxed and chilled out about it. But Eddie kind of fanned the flames a little bit by not playing him against Celtic and then admitting that part of the reason was, he actually said 10% of the reason was due to the speculation. And he said that he'd had some conversations with Alexander Isak, and then he made some comments about how it's a short career, which was a little bit concerning. What Eddie said, but again, I think he was just being honest about things, and he didn't want to give any guarantees that he could then make him look very stupid if something happens at the end of the window and he does leave. Like, the last thing a manager wants to do is give guarantees that they're not fully in control of. But Dimi, what's your take on this saga, the way it's played out since last week, the power play aspect of it, where they said that it was a power play by Liverpool, but then it was like a reverse power play by us because we made them by Hugo Ekitike. What do you think, Dimi? What's your take on it?
Yeah, it's all a shambles. I think I'm sick of that bloke, to be honest, Ekitike. It's the third time we've tried to sign the bloke. It's the third time he's rejected us. I mean, for goodness sake, just stop trying. He's obviously doesn't want to play for us. Piss off. But no, look, the issue I've got with this story and this saga, like you call it, is there's obviously a lot of factors at work, and there's a lot of, let's call them, influencers out there who are trying to drive a narrative. And the issue that I've got is those influencers who are driving this narrative are...
Call him out.
Oh, Fabrizio. Well, I'll call Fabrizio out. I don't give a
Stop
shit.
hiding behind it.
And no, I'm not just him, mates. It's others as well who are trying to add fuel to the fire. And the problem that I've got is when a so-called big club like Liverpool come out, everyone obviously jumps onto it. And there's obviously every transfer window, there's a story or there's a big player who's trying to be sold or trying to be bought, and the media just latch onto it. And the thing that shits me is we're just treated with no respect, in my opinion, by not only Liverpool, but reporters or so-called reporters like Fabrizio, who are just pushing out a narrative from agents or clubs just to rattle us. And I'd love if we had someone at the club, other than Eddie, who can come out and not respond to every sort of story, but just to stand up for the club and stand up for a player that we've got under contract. I'm sick of all these rumors saying, oh, he's unhappy here, or he's training by himself, or he's doing whatever he's doing. We need to have, because we don't have a CEO or active CEO that I'm aware of. I'm not sure what Darren Eales' status is health-wise, if he's still in Newcastle, if he's still working. We obviously don't have a sporting director, so there's no other public voice for the club. And I'd love if we have a public voice to come out and saying, look, this is the situation. He's under contract for 2028. He's not for sale. Move on. And you're right. Money changes things, and who knows if that's going to be the reality by the end of the window or by next window or whenever. But the fact that we've got no one on our team, on our side, coming out and saying, no, this is not happening. We are not going to be pushed around and bullied by a so-called Big Six club. That's the thing that's really shitting me. And we do seem to be sort of being kicked around at the moment in the media, just our name just thrown around. So it would be nice if we had someone come out publicly to sort of stand up for us.
A lot. I'm pleased you touched on the like standing up for ourselves kind of thing there as well, Dimi, because a lot of the discussion last week, Keegs, was about we should not be bullied by Liverpool. You know, we don't have to be bullied. We're a big club in our own right. We've just won a trophy beating Liverpool. And we've got Alexander Isak under contract for 3 more years. There was a few rumours about Saudi being interested in which that I think that everyone's head would fall off if that actually happened. Even though PIF is it's a different thing, and Newcastle are a small part of their portfolio. But he's not going to go to Saudi at this point in his career. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I think he'll go maybe next summer hopefully to Europe, Bayern, PSG, Barca. They all might need a striker by then, so that would be the ideal scenario if he has another good season. And if he doesn't sign a new contract, if he can then go get him out of the Premier League, that would be perfect. But with the money bandied about, Keeks, right? say it was 150 million, whatever. Was there any tiny part of you that thinks actually maybe we should do it? Because in PSR terms, and then what it could open up to us outside of that would be really big. It would sort us out for a good few years and would be able to strengthen in general. But then obviously you're offsetting that by losing a world-class striker. So was there any part of you that thought this might actually be a good idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And if you looked at all the top six, or not the top six, but the richest six clubs in terms of revenue and all that sort of stuff, they've all made a really significant sale. And that's what's helped bankroll them. And even the teams around us, like Aston Villa, Spurs, Brighton, like they sell players for a lot of money, which helps bankroll their system. Now, Villa look like they're probably at the end of their Grealish money, if you want to call it that, with what they did. They got a little bit from what's old mate's name, who we were trying to sign as well, the winger that
Diaby.
Diaby, yeah. So they got a good fee from him. I think that was 60 odd million that helped, bankroll them last year in their Champions League campaign and stuff like that. It's what good teams really good teams and good teams do, is that they sell players for good money to help them ticking over. Given the state of us and what we were when our new owners took over, we had no commodities to sell at any good rate at all. And I think ASM was probably the only thing that we could sell, and we still didn't even get a very good figure for him. In terms of changing the squad now, 150 million is a lot of money to transform your squad. And I know there's not many players like him, if any, in the world with what he can do and stuff like that. But I'm sure we could get a very, very good player to replace him for that money, as well as upgrade quite a few other positions. So if it was 150, I'd probably take 130 if it was to a team in Europe and not an English team. I think there should be a significant English tax applied to him, because he'll come back and bite us in the ass. But if it was a team in Europe, 130, 140, I think is probably something you have to agree to.
Yeah, it'll be very, very interesting. I hope it doesn't happen this summer, because he's still going to be in demand next summer. He'll be 26 by then. He'll still be before his prime, and he'll have 2 years left on his deal. But do you think his contract, Dimi? So there's a kind of report that Paul Mitchell said that we're not going to negotiate a new contract with him now because he's still got 3 years left and he's very well paid. But realistically, he could get upwards of 300 grand a week at another club. He's on less than half of that at the moment with us. Do you think some of this might be agent shenanigans to try and get him another deal, or do you think Newcastle are going to have to stick to the salary structure, which maybe they could stretch to 200? Bruno's on 160. Let's say that's accurate. But that's still less than what you'd be able to get elsewhere. So can you see him signing a new deal into the new season, or do you think we'll have to wait until next summer and see what's happening then?
Yeah, it's a delicate one. I mean, probably part of the talk and part of the agent sort of spreading out his wings with all these journalists is trying to get Isak a better deal, because he's probably telling Isak, look, these clubs are going to offer you 300k plus a week because you're probably the top 3 or 4 striker in the world. For us, we obviously can't afford that, but there's got to be other ways that we can help compensate that. I'm not sure if we do signing bonuses, we can probably do a handshake agreement and say, look, sign this contract now. In 3-4 years' time, we'll give you this much money, whatever the case may be. I think, again, when I talk about standing up for ourselves, I think us signing him to a new contract now would be another good image for the club. It doesn't mean he's going to sign forever. He's going to stay forever, but us being able to rebuff the interest, I think, is another good thing, because the last thing that we want to be seen to be, not only England but in Europe, is we can be bullied over our best players, and all the journos can go off and say, oh, Isak's head's turned, this, that. But if we can agree a new contract and then we sell him on our terms, if we do sell him, then all the better for that. So I'd virtually, just for the image of it, whether the contract changes slightly or it goes up, I'm not sure above Bruno or what the level's going to be, but even for the optics of it, I'd do it, announce it, make a big shenanigan about it, sort of just say to everyone, fuck off.
Because you can do things with release clauses as well, can't you? Bruno had one, so it's not a lack of loyalty from the player. It's just protecting the player and the club. Like you could say to Isak, let's say a Champions League club. You can even name the clubs. If any of these clubs come in for you for this price, then you can go and talk to them. And then just try and negotiate it that way. So there's kind of like a get out, but that still protects the club. And that seems to be happening quite a bit. In Bruno's case, nobody obviously triggered that release clause, which would have helped our PSR problems. But then he's just captained us to a trophy. So, and he's not going anywhere now. He'll probably finish his career, at least in Europe here, and then maybe go back to Brazil. So that's worked out pretty well for us. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Alexander Isak. I think he'll still be playing for us in September, definitely. I think he'll have another big season, and then I think we'll all feel a lot better if we'll have had 4 seasons out of him by next summer. So I think that would be really, really special. And then hopefully he can have his pick of European clubs and he doesn't go to Liverpool or Arsenal, because that would not be very nice.
No.
But let's talk about potential incomings. So obviously we know we've got money because of the whole Ekitike business that went on. We reportedly wanted to have them both. That would have been pretty special, but I think that's very ambitious. And like we said before, maybe we're a couple of years away from having 2 strikers like that. So it looks like we've got a real strong interest in Yoane Wissa from Brentford. David Ornstein tweeted yesterday that we bid 25 million. He's got 1 year left on his deal, but the Brentford have got an option for another year for him. So there seems quite a lot of confidence that this is going to happen, even though Spurs seem also to be interested, unless that's just lazy reporting because Thomas Frank's at Spurs now as well. But Wissa's had 4 seasons at Brentford, 149 games, 49 goals, pretty much 1 and 3. First 2 seasons he scored 7 goals, and then he scored 12 goals the season before last, and he scored 19 goals last season in the league. So he had a really good goal scoring season, and he wasn't taking penalties as well. He's got really good availability as well. He's played over 30 games in every Premier League season, and he's only missed 15 games out of 152 possible league games. And most of those is because he was at AFCON a few years ago. So that's a 90% availability record, which is really valuable, really important. He's versatile. He can play out wide. He can play up front. He is 29 in September, so he's getting towards the older age profile, older than what we would usually probably go for. But having a look at it, it seems to make sense. It hasn't quite got the excitement as much as Ekitike or some other players might have, probably because he plays for Brentford. But Keegs, I'll come to you first on this one. What do you think about this?
Do it. I think we're probably at a stage now where we can't fart around with, we'll chuck a bid in and see if it gets accepted. Like, we've kind of got to start getting players in and getting him acclimatized to Eddie's patterns and everything like that he wants to run. So if they're fair income and he's the one they're interested in, then they should probably, don't fart around, get it done. I think if Spurs are genuinely interested, then it probably does throw a spanner in the works, and I'd probably lean towards them as favourites to sign him over us. They're in the Champions League too. He knows the manager. He knows the system. They probably got more financial flexibility than us, whether we like it or not. So, I don't know how it works if he can nominate a club and say, no, I want to go to Newcastle, or the club sort of knows, sorry, that they've bid more than them, so we're going to take that off. I'm not sure how all that works, but I'd be happy with him. I think that shows a little bit of flexibility in terms of what they want to do. That's not our model at all, to go for a player that's 28 after that first transfer window, when we probably needed them experienced players like Trippier and Byrne and stuff like that to keep us up in the division. And ever since then, we've really gone towards that sort of early 20s kind of player before their peak. But yeah, if they do show that, I think it will show a different shift in strategy and a bit more open and flexible to signing players in their prime rather than before their prime. And I think it'd be a good signing for us. His record in the league doesn't lie. I think we're a better team than Brentford, so he should get more opportunities when he does play to score.
Callum Wilson was 28 when we signed him for 20 million, and that was 5 years ago. So
yeah,
it's just different from what we have been doing recently. Like you said, Keys, that first transfer window where we desperately had to get players in, but Wissa's had a bit of interest in him. Brentford have obviously sold Mbeumo to Man United, but they're very much this is them. I was reading an article about them recently, and they're just a selling club. Like, you know, they've had players for the last 10 years, and their model has been to buy low, sell high. They bought Wissa for 8.5 million. He's coming up to the age where they will be thinking they're not going to get this kind of money offered again. Dimi, have you actually seen much of him? He's played against us and scored a few goals against us a few times, but what do you know of him as a player? Have you seen much of him? What's your thoughts on how he'll fit into our system?
So I have seen probably pre-baby days a lot more of him than post-baby days, but no, he definitely, I think, will fit into our system. He's not someone who's like for like Isak, but he's a natural goal scorer from what I've seen. He's very good in the 18-yard box, finishes his chances, cool under pressure. And really, that's all we need, to be honest. Callum Wilson was that fox in the box, quality when he had a chance, or very clinical when he got those chances. That's essentially who he's replacing. We don't need an Isak clone. Isak's going to be starting most games. We need someone to come in for off the bench sometimes, but to start when Isak can't start, to do a job. And I mean, this guy's got 4 years under his belt in the Premier League with a team who doesn't create as many chances that we will. Probably won't play as direct as they do, but the thing I like about him is he's also flexible. He can play out wide if we have to play him out wide, and he's not just an immobile number 9 who just scores goals. Sort of like Callum Wilson was probably just a number 9, whereas Wissa can play on the flanks, and he's got pace, which helps Eddie's system and helps the way we want to play. We want to be direct on the counter attack in transition. So I think he'll be a perfect sort of backup for us, and probably someone who's not going to kick up a fuss if he's not starting every week. And I mean, yeah, look, he's 28 years old, but who gives a shit, really? You can't have everyone who's 21, 22-year-old. You have to have some experience in the squad, and 4 years of Premier League experience is very good. And I think, yeah, like Keek said, just make it happen.
This is exactly what we didn't do last time we got in the Champions League and bought Champions League ready players apart from Sandro. You know, like Wissa he's not played Champions League before, but we know that he can perform at Premier League level. I broke my own rule about not watching YouTube compilations before we've signed players earlier.
You weren't on a bus though, were you?
I wasn't on a bus this time.
Oh, that's right there.
That was Botman, yeah, when I missed my stop because I was watching Sven Botman compilations. But Wissa, basically, that goal he scored against us in that 4-2 was a really nice finish from about the 18-yard box. But pretty much all of his other goals have been from like 2 yards out. Like he scored a few headers that have been like basically on the line, but he's just in the right position. Like he knows where to go. He scored against us in the Carabao Cup consolation as well this last season, and that was a nice close range finish. So, like you said, Dimi, he's to replace Callum Wilson, and if he's available for 90% of games, he's already more use than what Callum Wilson was last season. So he can play. You'll be able to play with Isak. You'll be able to come in for him, give him a bit of a rest. He's obviously passes the no dickhead test as well. He will be away for the African Cup of Nations for a bit with Congo, so he might miss 4 or 5 games over the Christmas period. But yeah, I think it's if we can get this over the line, I just think it'll give everybody a bit of a boost, and then we'll have 5 weeks in which to sign maybe a goalkeeper, defender, and I think we definitely need at least one midfielder as well. So this would be nice, like especially before they go over to South Korea, Singapore, wherever it is. I think we're actually on TV here on Saturday night, 9:30. Yeah, so that's unusual. But it'd be nice to get them on the plane for that as well. So let's hope that happens, and it gives everybody a little bit of a boost, and we can start looking forward to the Villa game, which is 3.5 weeks away. Like preseason's just. I don't like preseason. Like the games mean nothing. Like, and it's just
and people get caught up in them too. Like,
yeah,
you have no idea what kind of workloads they had in Austria that week before the Celtic. Like, they could have been absolutely fingered by the time they got to that Celtic game because of the work that they'd done.
Yeah,
and you just look at the score and the whole world ends because we lost 4-0. If you're going to talk about anything, it's probably the graphic that the club used. Is probably
the graphic was not good.
You can't defend that. It doesn't matter how fatigued you are. You got to be better than that.
Yeah, no, I don't think the graphic design is fatigued. They're just maybe experimenting a little bit.
Preseason.
It's not just the manager it's not just the manager. It's the graphic designer as well. But I think, pretty much every time the club tweets anything these days, it gets a load of shit back as well because of the transfer situation. So
I noticed Anthony Gordon put a post on Instagram the other day and has actually turned the comments off. So
really? Okay,
that's where we're at the moment.
He's responsible for the transfers as well now, is he?
Yeah,
it's this time of year, isn't it? But very nice to talk.
I was going to say maybe just before we finish up, to help boost the club coffers. I know they're flogging Adidas merchandise and stuff. If Gordon's going to keep rocking that headband for the season, I think that could be an absolute masterstroke in the club shop. You have 50,000 Geordies with white headbands on at every home game would be a masterstroke. Put a little Adidas logo on there, sell them for 15 quid each. You'd make an absolute motto.
I'm no hair expert, obviously, but I would quite like Gordon to cut his hair because he was really good when he had that smart
absolutely.
haircut.
But he could still go with the headband. I'm all for the headband.
Yeah, I'll wear a headband.
Yeah. But you're special and you play tennis, so that's fine. Right. I was just going to say it's nice to talk to some balanced Newcastle supporters because you don't get that really on social media, and it's good to try and it's good to probably just try and limit your use a little bit at this time of year if you get easily wound up or if you get easily angered. And I remember last season as well thinking, can't wait till this. Who cares? I don't care what happens with the transfer window. Let's just get it over with so we can start concentrating on the football again. Because even the first few games of the season, if you haven't done your transfer business, it doesn't go away. Yeah, like you're still talking and thinking about this, and I'm sure Eddie will be desperate for it as well. So. But let's have some confidence that they're going to do what they need to do. Like you said before, Dimi, the transfer record when we have made signings is phenomenal. Like I think it was the top 6 or 7 transfers I looked at for us compared to other Premier League clubs. And everyone's a hit. Every one of them's a hit. And no other club can say that. So the club are really good. And I think it's because they have that defined player they want, the character, but the characteristics, they're being so well coached by Eddie. So let's just hope they get there and we can forget this little period and we'll go from there. Anything else before we finish? Any final thoughts? Words of wisdom?
We'll have the signing before Friday.
Before Friday? What we are now? Wednesday night.
We can't go back and release this on Monday, mate. You know that, don't you?
Could be any Friday. Yeah, maybe we'll listen this.
48 hours, and if not, you'll dye your hair pink. Right, that's a deal.
You and Craig together.
No.
See you next time. See you next time, boys. Cheers.
See you, boys.